We know that whenever Donald Trump opens his mouth, he is creating problems for himself. It's the reason he's afraid to debate Kamala Harris again. It's the reason he just canceled his 60 Minutes interview. And it's the reason that he only does interviews with podcast hosts, MAGA Fox propagandist, and radio personality Dave Ramsey. Today, yes, Donald Trump recently did an interview with radio personality Dave Ramsey, who was really throwing as many softballs at him as he possibly could. The interview was so easy for Donald Trump, yet, as he always does, he found a way to mess it up. And you can kind of see the shock on Dave's face as he's lobbing these really easy questions at him, and Donald Trump still finds a way to put his foot in his mouth and mess it up. And it was just an absolute catastrophe for Donald Trump, as it always is. And so we are going to check out this interview. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you, as a birthday present to me, to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and leave a like on this video. It goes a long way and really means the world to me. Now let's get into this interview.
I'd like to work for Donald Trump. How do you hire leaders and put people in place to do that? Because I know you're obviously not there personally managing that, but you put a culture in place in your organization, and that applies to the administration as well, hiring people that are quality leaders.
Well, my son, Eric, is very much involved, and he runs a lot of it. And Don helps out a lot. And Ivanka, to a lesser extent, you know, she's a great mother and everything. She did a fantastic job in the administration. All she wanted to do is get people jobs. And she'd go around and see Exxon and see Walmart. She wanted jobs for people. It's really pretty amazing. She could have had a very glamorous job, and she would have done well. But Eric's done a great job. And I did a similar type of job when I was doing it. Now I'm doing a thing called running for president, so I don't get but we rebuilt Turnberry.
Donald Trump has famously done a lot of hiring and fake firing on his TV show through the years, but I think the claim that he hires the best people went out the window pretty quickly in his administration, not only because of the horrible people he did hire, but all the people who then decided that they didn't want to work for him anymore because they saw what a destructive force Donald Trump was. Now, we should give some credence to the credibility of those people if they were willing to come out against Donald Trump after they worked for him. Certainly, they have a bit of common sense, but certainly not the outcome that Donald Trump would have wanted. So it's so funny to me that when he's asked about the people he hires and what it's like to work for him, he can only talk about his kids, because those aren't people you hired. Those are just your Nepo fail son children who have done terrible in whatever endeavor they've pursued, unless it is abusing our government to make them more money. I'm looking at you, Ivanka and Jared Kushner. But of course, Donald Trump couldn't give straight answers on anything or good answers on anything in this interview. All he could do is complain, which we saw much more from right here.
I'm attacked at left and right, but I do because we make so much progress. We're doing great on the campaign, as you probably see. We're leading in the campaign now and doing well. We beat Biden, and we were up so far on him, and then they said, that's like a fight. You're in a fight, and they changed the fighter in the middle of the, right? In the middle of the fight, they changed the fighter. And now we're beating her very badly. I'd be so interesting to see her in your show, because I don't believe that she would be able to answer any questions on what you discuss better than anybody else.
Well, I'm happy to have her if she'd come.
I'm sure she would be. I'm sure she'd love to come. She wouldn't come.
Is he really trying to say that Kamala Harris is the one afraid to do a softball interview with Dave Ramsey when he's the one afraid to debate, continuing to say that he doesn't want to, just cancel the 60 Minutes interview? It's absolute nonsense. And of course we know why Donald Trump doesn't want to debate. It's because he's scared. It's because he's insecure. He couldn't look Kamala Harris in the eye while they were up on that stage together. Of course, he is absolutely terrified. And it's also because he's rolled out some new policies like his tariffs, oh my gosh, that he knows he can't be asked about, because if he is, he'll completely implode, which he did when he was talking about his tariffs right here.
A lot of people like, oh, well, we don't want to have tariffs. The country was at the richest point in its history in the 1890s. It was all tariffs. If you looked at William McKinley as an example, he was a big tariff president. They had committees that were put in charge of what to do with the money. We were taking in so much money. And McKinley would say, why should we let other people come in and steal our factories and steal our workers and steal our jobs? And why shouldn't we benefit? And he tariffed the other countries. And we made so much, and then they went to the income tax system later on. But they would actually they had a blue ribbon committee. Our country was so rich, they didn't know what to do with the money. And this blue ribbon committee was set up to determine how can we spend all of this money, and they took it in through tariffs. But we can turn our country around, make it strong, and then guard it with tariffs.
The reason I so badly want another debate isn't so Kamala Harris can grill Donald Trump. We've already seen that. We know she can do it. It would be beautiful. What I want are simple questions asked of him. What is a tariff? Can you explain it? And see him melt down because he doesn't actually know. And it becomes abundantly clear in the way that he talks about our economy that he doesn't really know how it works, how it runs, or what to do. We saw that when he destroyed it in 2020, and all he can ever talk about are his giant tax cuts, which only served him and his rich friends. So not really a great point there to make in your favor, in the same way that Donald Trump wants to talk about energy, but always fails to do so, like in this clip right here.
I have a little thing that I've been saying lately because I think it's easily achievable. You know, we pay very high energy costs, and especially now, but we're paying very, very high. I believe I'll be able to get energy down to 50%, 50% of what it is right now within a period of less than a year.
Wow.
That's pretty good. It's going to happen fast, okay? It's going to happen fast.
Well, what are you going to do to do that? What causes that?
They're going to drill. They're going to frack. They're going to do things that they have tremendous additional.
So taking the regs off, taking the regulation gloves off.
We have to. They put them back on. They put regulations back on. That areas that have no environmental real meaning, they don't let them drill. They're taking leases away, government leases that you're hearing about. I think we can get energy costs down to half of what they. If we do that,
that's pretty dramatic.
Everything, all of those inflated prices are going to come down with it.
This was one of the few moments from the interview when we saw just a little bit of pushback from Dave Ramsey. And it wasn't pushback as much as, how do you plan to cut energy prices in half? Donald Trump's answer, I will. We're going to do it. It's going to be great. So not an answer. So no. But okay, but it's Kamala Harris who's the one who's afraid to debate or who doesn't talk about her policies enough. You're just floating ideas that everything is going to be perfect because you're president, even though for the first time in American history in 50 years, we're energy independent. Didn't happen under you. But no, you're the one who's going to do energy so well. It's going to be so great. And another thing that Donald Trump, some numbers that he liked to blow out of proportion, came right here when he was talking about Elon Musk.
Cost cutting.
Yeah.
We have plenty of cost cutting to do too, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's
In fact, I'm going to ask Elon, who's a great guy, but he's a pretty good.
That was a great interview.
Yeah. Oh, that was a great interview.
Yeah, it was.
That was some interview. We did pretty big numbers. I hear we did like 900 million people or something. That was a pretty good. But he's a great guy, and he gave me a full endorsement and all of that. But he's got a good sense on that. There's tremendous cost cutting that we can do, and affect nothing. We're not going to affect anybody. We're not going to hurt anybody. We have to save Social Security and keep it good and solid. I don't want to be raising ages or anything.
I know that he lies about crowd size. I know that every rally that he attends, he always says that there were 100,000, 50,000 people waiting outside trying to get in. But 900 million people, really? That's how many tuned in to listen to you and Elon Musk on X? I don't think that there are 300 million, a third of that people on Twitter who have accounts. It's just so ridiculous. Again, this is all he can ever think of, his ratings, his tiny little crowd size. And so he really overcompensates because that's overcompensating. And again, I've said this before, I can't think of anything that would scare me more than both Donald Trump and Elon Musk in our government. That is not a plan for success in my mind. And speaking of success, Donald Trump wanted to talk about his successes and his administration. And gosh, what a joke it was.
Getting the tax cuts approved, biggest tax cuts in history. Biggest regulation cuts in the history of our country, rebuilding the military. We did a job in the military. I rebuilt the whole military. And then you see a lot of that military being given to Afghanistan stupidly because they left the country. I mean, and now you see them parading it back and forth. That was, I think, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, what they did. But there were a lot of individual achievements that we had. The creation of Space Force. Space Force is now dominating space. And when I came, there was no Space Force. The first time since Air Force, 78 years.
So the big achievements were tax cuts for the rich and dominating space. Can he explain? How does that help? How does that help us? What does that do? Oh, you also destroyed the economy. Do you remember that? 1 million people died during COVID. You remember that? No, you don't? Oh, you don't care? You just want to talk about crowd size? That's great. Awesome. Kamala Harris is focused on the issues. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are lying about cats, dogs, geese, and crowd size. Could we get a starker contrast in this race? I don't think so. We listened to a person who was too scared to do a real debate, a real interview, and he still found a way to mess it up. And we're going to keep calling that out every single day. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. And thank you for hanging out with me watching these videos on my birthday. It means a lot. And until next time, I'll see you soon.